Picture yourself as an exhausted attendant in Queen Elizabeth's palace around 1580. Your most dreaded task has come due, preparing the Queen's monthly cleansing ritual. That's right, once every 30 days. The sovereign who commanded the mightiest empire on earth immersed herself in heated water just 12 times annually, a frequency her medical advisors considered recklessly excessive. Staff worked through the night, hauling bucket after steaming bucket to fill her cloth, draped wooden basin. But the true nightmare wasn't the water itself. It was everything dissolved in it. Daily, Elizabeth slathered her face with Venetian ceruse, that infamous lead-based cosmetic, never removing the previous application before adding another. When she finally undressed and sank into the bath, her makeup crumbled away like paint flaking off a decaying structure. Chalky white lead particles, accumulated perspiration, and weeks of accumulated dirt churned together into a revolting broth that turned servants' stomachs. The odor, a nauseating blend of metallic notes, acid, and decomposing tissue, pushed the limits of human tolerance. Elizabeth had company in these habits, though. Frances Marie Antoinette transformed her baths into elaborate performances. She'd settle into the tub wearing a complete linen dress, snacking on delicacies while nobles engaged in polite chatter, everyone pretending not to notice she was soaking in weeks of filth. The harsh reality beneath the magnificence these monarchs governed empires while enduring relentless irritation, thinning hair, and the lethal consequences of their beauty obsessions. Enter Elizabeth I's private rooms, and the illusion of ethereal loveliness dissolves. Her complexion wasn't merely fair, it was transformed into a corpse-like shell of paint. Each dawn, her attendants spread fresh Venetian ceruse, that mixture of acid and pulverized white lead, directly atop yesterday's fragmenting coating. Water cleansing was deemed hazardous, so the mask accumulated, becoming denser, weightier, and increasingly lethal. The consequences proved catastrophic. Lead infiltrated her system, eroding her memory, destabilizing her emotional state, and corroding her dental health. Court insiders murmured about her explosive rage, her lapses in recall, her suspicious nature, none recognizing that toxins, not treachery, were consuming her from within. Her locks dropped out in handfuls, compelling her to don wigs so massive they strained her neck. Her complexion wrinkled and dulled, requiring increasingly thick applications to conceal the deterioration. And the odor, it became notorious, a sharp metallic scent blended with acidic tang and the oils of uncleaned skin. Those granted audience with the monarch learned quickly to position themselves precisely, near enough to catch her words, distant enough to keep their composure. This transcended beauty, it became compulsion, a ceremony of gradual self-destruction enacted for the sake of style and authority. The fixation on porcelain, perfect complexions reached its most lethal expression through Venetian ceruse, that notorious white lead concoction. Highborn ladies throughout Europe applied it religiously until it accumulated in genuine strata that fractured and shed like paint on deteriorating plaster. The toxin infiltrated their circulation, distorting their temperaments, fogging their cognition, and corrupting their physiology from within. Tresses thinned, gums darkened, and their breath soared. Still, they returned for more applications. Social expectations demanded flawlessness, and flawlessness demanded toxins. To project divinity, they accepted insanity, illness, and gradual death through cosmetics. Medical practitioners cautioned against the practice, but pride consistently defeated prudence. For numerous queens, the facade of beauty transformed into their funeral visage. With countless unwashed figures crammed into structures like Versailles, the atmosphere grew intolerable. Fragrance wasn't indulgence, it was a necessity. Ladies clutched aromatic pouches perpetually against their nostrils. Hand coverings were saturated in essential oils. Even ornamental pieces featured concealed reservoirs holding waxes and aromatics that emanated scent through body warmth. Yet these weren't subtle fragrances. They were overpowering concoctions of musk, civet, and ambergris, animal-derived substances potent enough to overwhelm the senses. More troubling still, when layered over grimy skin, they merged with perspiration, decaying teeth, and festering injuries to produce stenches even more repulsive than what they attempted to conceal. the palace atmosphere transformed into a suffocating haze of disease and botanicals, elegance and putrefaction, leaving guests light-headed, queasy, and eager for fresh air. Among the most peculiar and unsettling positions in any royal household was the groom of the stool, the individual responsible for assisting the monarch's bathroom needs. While this appears humiliating, it actually ranked among the most influential appointments available, since this servant enjoyed the ruler's undivided attention during his most vulnerable times. Consider the experience. Crouching behind an unclean sovereign, cleaning him with fabric or unprotected fingers, inhaling air thick with the stench of spoiled food and infected lesions, all while debating matters of governance. Military campaigns were launched, diplomatic agreements finalized, and death sentences pronounced from the royal chamber pot. Monarchical prestige, as it happens, rested upon another's humiliation. Throughout Spain, cleanliness itself transformed into transgression. Queen Isabella, alongside the Inquisition, proclaimed bathing immoral, linking it with Islamic practices and depravity. Communal bathhouses faced demolition, soap production became prohibited, and merely appearing excessively clean could lead to execution as a heretic. Native populations across the Americas, renowned for their regular washing customs, were compelled to abandon these practices following Spanish colonization. Epidemics swept through their communities, while religious authorities proclaimed filth a manifestation of piety. Throughout Spain and its territories, grime became not merely accepted but sanctified. The Countess Palatine of Hanover maintained that immersing herself in milk would calm her afflicted skin. Battling venereal illness, her wounds seeped into the liquid during her baths. Upon completion, she commanded that the milk be distributed to impoverished families as benevolence. For desperate commoners, this appeared providential, yet truthfully, it delivered death. They consumed milk contaminated with her affliction, completely unaware that her generosity transmitted sickness rather than sustenance. This disturbing blend of kindness and brutality demonstrates how oblivious the aristocracy remained to the anguish of their inferiors. The extravagant hairstyles worn by aristocratic ladies transcended mere fashion statements. They became biological catastrophes. Built using animal grease, powders, and decorative elements, these constructions evolved into warm, oily habitats teeming with fleas, lice, and larvae. These arrangements frequently remained undisturbed for weeks on end. Servants wielding ornamental scratching implements offered momentary comfort. Yet the scalp inflammations, patches of baldness, and overwhelming odors became permanent afflictions. Nevertheless, greater heights signaled superior rank. Women, therefore, persisted, even as vermin transformed their scalps into thriving colonies. Ultimately, we reached the supreme hygiene catastrophe of the Era, Versailles under the Sun King. Louis XIV assembled more than 10,000 aristocrats, staff, and military personnel within a single structure, yet constructed virtually no operational lavatories. Refuse sailed from windows, hallways reeked of urine, and excrement dripped through ceilings into food preparation areas and sleeping quarters. Even royal offspring matured while playing near pools of human waste, breathing air so contaminated that visitors collapsed during formal receptions. This gem of France, this alleged apex of sophistication, stood in reality as one of Europe's filthiest locations. Beyond its ornate surfaces, Versailles wasn't a palace. It was a sewer encased in gold leaf. Next time you imagine queens draped in luminous gowns and sparkling diadems, recall the reality underlying the spectacle. These were individuals imprisoned within cultures that valued presentation above wellness, toxins above sanitation, and agony above self-respect. They governed countries, shaped history, and conducted themselves with poise, all while combating parasites, contaminating their bodies, and inhabiting palaces reeking of human waste. The aristocracy may have existed in magnificence, but beyond the tapestries lay an existence defined by misery, affliction, and unthinkable degradation.